Coming up tonight, a void to fill. The death of Cabinet Minister Obi Wolshcom now means a new leader of government business in the House must be appointed. Plus, the man behind the pen. Wolshcom's campaign songwriter pays tribute to the fallen parliamentarian. Plus, taking the orange economy by storm, but in style. Our Italia Hall talks one-on-one with a Grand Bahama fashion designer making waves. These stories and more as Our News Weekend starts now. This is Our News Weekend. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Megan Shepard. Plans continue for a series of public events, including a state funeral to mark the passing of Social Services Minister Obi Wolshcom. The West End and Bimini MP was found unresponsive Monday morning in Grand Bahama. His body flown to the capital later that day. Since then, there have been daily public tributes honoring his legacy and life. His death has left a vacant seat in Parliament, a constituency without a representative, as well as a ministry in limbo. Wolshcom was also the leader of government business in the House of Assembly. Chief Clerk David Forbes telling Our News this week, whoever takes the job now has big shoes to fill, as the role requires a lot more than meets the eye.
The leader of government business will also be the person who is negotiating with the leader of the opposition business to make sure that if the government wants some special consideration from the opposition, he would be the one negotiating that with the opposition leader, the leader of opposition business in the House. So these are things that happen behind the scene. You see the House of Assembly meet and you would not know all of these all of these things, preparatory steps that would have been taken in order for the Parliament to meet smoothly.
That new appointment will likely happen during the opening of Parliament Wednesday. The role requires coordinating the government's legislative agenda and working closely with the parliamentary staff for day-to-day activities.
Whenever the government is bringing a bill, a resolution, or even communications, tabling of documents, he would let me know that we have some documents to table. There are two ministers, this minister or that particular minister is doing a communication, and then we'll be tabling a bill or two or three, or he would say, well, we won't be tabling any new bills, but we're going to debate this particular bill. So he's the person who comes to meet, because at the end of the day, you have to remember, we have the support in terms of the documents themselves, because bills would have been tabled long before sometimes.
Since Wolshcom's death Monday, the condolences and tributes and reflections keep coming. As a two-time tourism minister, he spent the majority of his ministerial time with the staff there. This week, Tourism's Director General Latia Duncan spoke about the effect his death is having on her staff who knew him so well.
This week was very difficult within the Ministry of Tourism, and we paused and I engaged every single staff member here in Nassau, and for those team members that were abroad, I had virtual meetings with them. And even as we do the school circuit, the speaker circuit, we're pausing for a moment of silence.
And like so many others since Monday, Duncan talks about the influence and work he put in at the Ministry of Tourism.
Minister Wolshcom was the Minister of Tourism for 10 years. He saw potential in all of our people. He saw potential and opportunities in our country, in our tourism product. His contributions that he's made to the islands of the Bahamas will always be remembered. We're grateful for his service. We're grateful for his contributions, especially in the area of the creatives, in the films industry, in the sports industry, and he will always be remembered. We've lost a giant of a man.
Wolshcom is being remembered as someone dedicated to his party with great oratory skills. In fact, it is widely held belief that he was one of the greatest public speakers the Progressive Liberal Party has ever seen. Of the many who have honored Wolshcom is Bahamian entertainer Little Joe Cartwright. Cartwright sharing with Our News that he's responsible for some of Wolshcom's campaign songs.
When I wrote his songs, it came in. I was working for David Wallace, trying to get him at one time into the line spot. And then I say, David, this is a hard one because my cousin run it too, but you know, I stick with David and Obi win, and he called me and we talk, and he said, because this is life, man. He said, you know, I love you. And I said, I love you too, man. And I walk away and I say, Lord, if you let me live 5 years from now, let me write him a song. And that's how the Champion of the West came along.
We are also following news of another tragedy, this one involving a student of Queens College. According to Principal Reverend Henry Knowles, the school's head boy was at the school's Village Road campus earlier today for basketball practice when he collapsed. Knowles says they sprung into action to render assistance until an ambulance arrived. The student has been identified as Dario Anthony Ramming Jr.
He was not playing at that time when he collapsed, and we were keeping him using CPR and other means until the ambulance came, and then they took over and were able to take him to the hospital where they continued to work with him. We then got word later on from the hospital that he had passed away.
Reverend Knowles says everyone on campus is in shock, as Ramming was an extraordinary young man.
His personality, his character, his generosity, his kindness, his compassion for others. He's well-spoken. He's a leader, but yet still humble. You know, he's just an extraordinary young man that's just loved by the entire school. And I'm telling folks that when he was installed as head boy, you know, in the auditorium, and the student body just went nuts because everyone just absolutely loves him and looks up to him, you know, and we are just so deeply affected right now on campus with administration and staff.
Police are also looking at a death on Sweetings Key. A police alert to the media this afternoon indicated a man died in an industrial accident on the Small Key off of McLean's Town in East Grand Bahama. Police have not identified him or provided any other details up to news time. We will continue to follow this story. Officers of the Traffic Division are actively investigating a traffic accident that has claimed the life of a man in his early to mid-30s. Reports are that shortly after 4 a.m., the lone occupant of a white Buick LaCrosse was traveling south on Collins Avenue near 3rd Terrace when he hit a limestone wall on the western side of the road, extensively damaging the vehicle. Fire services were summoned to the scene to extricate the victim from the vehicle, and EMS personnel transported him to the hospital. While in hospital, the victim succumbed to his injuries a short time later. Meantime, a 44-year-old man is in hospital in stable condition after he was stabbed around 7 p.m. on Thursday night. Police say the victim was at a business when he got into a fight with another man who stabbed him in the upper body with a broken bottle. The victim was transported to the hospital. Police are questioning a 62-year-old man who turned himself into police in connection with this incident. Police are also investigating an armed robbery that occurred on Meadows Boulevard and Holly Road. According to preliminary reports, the victim arrived at his Winton Meadows home just before midnight when he was approached and robbed by two gunmen who took cash. The suspects escaped in a white Nissan Cube. Well, it's now time for your first look at temperatures. Meteorologist Ian McKenzie is standing by in the Weather Center. Ian.
Thanks, Megan, and good evening, Bahamas. Currently outside our studios, we're under a few clouds with a temperature of 86. Our winds are from the east-northeast at 8 miles per hour, with a muggy feels-like temperature of 93 degrees. Taking a look at our current temperatures across the country at this time in our nation's second city, Freeport, we have 82, 84 in Marsh Harbor, 85 in Allenstown, Great Harbor Key, 86 Nicholstown, Anderson in the capital, and 85 in Governor's Harbor, Eleuthera. In the central Bahamas and Camps Bay, we have 85 also in Georgetown and Deadman's Key and Arthurstown, Kit Island. And the cool spot tonight in the central Bahamas is Coburn Town, San Salvador, coming in at 84 degrees. For the southeast Bahamas, we have 86 in Duncan Town, Ragged Island, also in Providenciales, Turks and Caicos, 85s in Colonel Hill, Delectable Bay, and Matthewtown in Agua. Here's your first look at satellite and radar imagery at this time. We have a stalled out frontal boundary just across the central Florida area. This is producing a prefrontal trough across the extreme northwest Bahamas, which is triggering pockets of showers and isolated thunderstorm activity. Stick around, we'll tell you more about this frontal boundary and the tropics straight to come.
Still to come on Our News Weekend, our Jean Joseph speaks exclusively with the campus president of UB North. We have the details on Dr. Strawn's latest novel. Plus, next month is Youth Month, and the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture has an exciting lineup of activities for the young and young at heart. Those details coming up when Our News returns.
Doctors Hospital has reimagined primary care. We have invested to improve our health system, ensuring that accessible, affordable, world-class clinical care is closer to you. Your relationship with a primary care provider shapes the foundation of your overall health. Our new, modern primary care facilities are where critical diagnosis and true personalized treatment begin. With locations across New Providence, Grand Bahama, and Exuma, we invite you to experience the Doctors Hospital difference. Book your next appointment at clinics.doctorshos.com.
Dr. Ian Strawn is a writer and has been a leading figure in the academic world since 1995, when he began his journey as an English professor at the College of the Bahamas. Today, he is UB's executive vice president and campus president of UB North. One may wonder how he finds time to write with all of these professional responsibilities, but our Jean Joseph finds out all about that and Strawn's newest novel, Blind Days.
They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, but it takes a skilled writer with a mighty pen to craft words into a movie in your mind's eye. Writing powerful narratives has become second nature to Dr. Ian Strawn, and he's proven that with such moving drama and comedy like the iconic Gippy's Kingdom. Now, he brings forth his latest contribution, Blind Days, a glimpse into the chilling tale of a slave girl that would change the course of history for people of color in this region.
It's a story of a girl named Kate, who was a slave on a plantation in Crooked Island in 1826. True story. And the confrontation, sort of battle of wills she had with her master and mistress. And they punished her severely. In fact, so severely that she ultimately died.
Though the story takes place in a very different day and time, Strawn says Kate provides timeless lessons that are relevant today.
She refused to be silent in the face of very powerful, very connected individuals. And I think there's an inspiring story in there. There's a story of standing up for yourself, a story of not being afraid and insisting that people see you and not just ignore you. And I think that hopefully is inspirational, because I see this young black girl as an actual hero, as a hero of our country.
Strawn says the pro-African lessons he learned at the College of the Bahamas and the historically black Morehouse College in Atlanta shaped his outlook on life as a black man in the world. Strawn aims to entertain and enlighten readers and hopefully provide a transformative experience.
I really hope that people are moved, positively moved.
Follow Dr. Strawn on Facebook or visit his website, ianstrawn.wordpress.com, for more information on the upcoming release date and public readings where you can get your signed copy. Reporting for Our News, Arts and Entertainment, I'm Jean Joseph.
Awesome report. Thanks so much, Jean. Calling all young people. The Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture is on an aggressive mission to reach youth across the nation, as October is recognized as National Youth Month. The minister responsible, Mario Bolek, tells us more.
This month is a celebration of our young leaders, innovators, and change makers who are shaping the future of our nation every day and every way. Over the course of the next 31 days, we will shine a spotlight on the standard of excellence that the youth of our nation have displayed, whether it's excellence in sports, excellence in education, excellence in entrepreneurship, and the many other disciplines that we seek to recognize.
Now, activities will include speech competitions, a youth march and rally, the National Youth Awards, and the return of youth in Parliament. But Bolek says the month of events is only the tip of the iceberg, as 2023 has also been highlighted as the Year of Youth.
At the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in 2022, leaders declared 2023 as the year dedicated to youth-led action and sustainable and inclusive development. Youth Year has been declared simply because we understand the importance that young people play in driving our country forward. The government of the Bahamas therefore remains committed to ensuring that there is a standard of excellence as we empower young people, and that there's a standard of excellence as we engage young people.
When Our News comes back from the break, Racing for a Cure. After a 3-year hiatus, Race for the Cure weekend is back, and it's definitely an event you want to support. Plus, if you were up bright and early this morning, you may have seen hundreds of runners on the streets of New Providence. We'll tell you why on the other side of this break.
With over 25 years in business, nothing says commitment to our people, culture, and service like Rev. And this year is no different. We will continue to elevate your home experience for you to create and share memories for years to come, while keeping you connected to the people and things you love most. Our pledge to provide quality service each year remains true. Rev is made for you.
You're watching Our News Weekend. Welcome back. After a 3-year hiatus, officials announcing the return of the Sunshine Insurance Marathon Bahamas Race for the Cure weekend. Sunshine Insurance President Paul McWeeny telling us that next year's race will look and feel a bit differently in hopes of encouraging greater public participation. However, the emphasis on breast cancer research, education, treatment, and support remains the same.
With the marathon starting early that morning, and the 5K Race for the Cure starting shortly thereafter. The other change is that the Pink Run, formerly known as Susan G. Komen Race for the Cure, will now carry the sole branding of its founding lead sponsor, Sunshine Insurance, as the Pink Run Walk for the Cure. The underlying objectives will remain unchanged in that donations will continue to be made for the benefit of cancer care NGOs.
Now, the race is open to people of all ages, and they're expecting more than 2,000 participants to support the upcoming Race for the Cure. Sunshine Insurance Vice President Shelley Wilson says this time the route has also changed.
This route will be more flat and easier to manage. Starting time at 6:45 a.m. on Sunday, January 2024. There will be no race events on the preceding Saturday, which is what the local community had become accustomed to. The 5K is again a 3.1 mile event, so it is manageable even with limited training. And the starting line for the race will be at the Western Esplanade, and that will also be the finish line.
Over 800 participants showed up to the grounds around the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium at dawn for the University of the Bahamas' cross-country meet this morning. It's the second time the university was able to organize a cross-country event, featuring several categories. Assistant Athletics Director Sean Bastian and the university's acting president, Jane Hodder, spoke to Our News.
So we're seeing the growth and success of this cross-country meet. And as I told the President a few minutes ago, we're looking to add a collegiate aspect of it where we're going to bring in international universities from the South Florida area more particularly. So we see great opportunities to expand, and athletics is really moving. And we, with the guidance of our president here, I see great success for the athletics department.
And we're getting participation from schools and from clubs, and we're actually supporting young people in their development. And that's what the university is supposed to do. So we're thrilled.
Now, UB is putting emphasis on its sports program. The university's athletics director, Kimberly Roll, using the occasion to talk about how athletics ties into university overall development.
Our kids won't barely remember what they did in English 119. They'll remember a homecoming game. They'll remember a cross-country meet. Because these are the kinds of things that build camaraderie, build pride in the institution. And so I think we cannot understate the importance of athletics in the out-of-classroom experience. Because at a university, you're not looking at just granting degrees. You're looking at building the entire person.
And still to come, making a mark in the orange economy. A grand Bahamian designer shares the ups and downs of the fashion industry. That's coming up when Our News returns. Welcome back. Day one of the second Bahamas Dragon Boat Festival is officially a wrap. The heated competition taking place at Goodman's Bay this morning and will continue through Sunday. President of the Pan American Dragon Boat Federation says you definitely won't want to miss day two, as there is sure to be lots of food, entertainment, and of course, the unique racing competition at sea.
We have a lot of inexperienced crew that are on board, but things are moving well. We have scrapped the 500 races in order to things to run better. So they're doing 200s, and 200s is a much more exciting race. So tomorrow you'll see all 200s, and all the crews will be fast. It's a fast race now.
Now, a number of organizations are competing in this year's festival, but according to Melissa DeVoe of the Cable Bahamas Dragon Warriors, we are definitely the team to beat.
We came second, so we feel like we won the whole race. But it's all about teamwork, our core values, really commitment, teamwork. When we talk about our community spirit, so our team really showed up. We are 17 members strong, and we want you all to come out tomorrow at 9:15 to support Cable Bahamas Dragon Warriors. The team did an excellent job.
The fashion industry is growing by leaps and bounds in the country, as we've seen more and more from the creative industry on the big stage. In this report, a Grand Bahamian is sharing some of his challenges in the sector as well as his successes. Italia Hall has more.
The orange economy is booming across the country. This is more and more creatives and fashion designers are getting the opportunity to showcase their talent. Grand Bahamian Richard Shepard, the owner of the McCoy brand, says his journey began some 10 years ago.
The very first public appearance my brand would have made would have been when I competed in the Fashion Art competition in Nassau. And I actually won that competition, and that was the birth of my brand today.
He's been inspired by the fashion industry from a very young age.
I love dressing up. I could always remember being excited to go to church.
Now, initially, he started off with swimwear pieces for women.
One day, I just decided to go on YouTube and learn how to make a swimsuit. And the very first swimsuit I made was actually made out of a shirt.
Now he offers pieces for men and women, from t-shirts, hats, and much more. But hear why being a fashion designer isn't always an easy task.
Over the years, I have been working towards having my pieces mass produced, but that could be a bit challenging when, one, there isn't no capital, and two, you just don't have the recognition to, I guess you could say, have the client base to even thoroughly build a startup, I guess.
He says with God's guidance, he persevered and recently released a new line.
This time I wanted the world to see it, so I decided to get a camera crew and have them film a runway show through the Garden of the Grove.
As for what keeps him sharp, the fashion designer attributes it to research, which he says is key in this industry.
As it relates to any business, you have to be willing to fail in order to succeed or whatever. You have to know that it's a learning journey. The whole journey is a learning journey. And when the time is right, I truly believe that God will make it happen, as he said in his word.
Reporting for Our News Weekend, I'm Italia Hall.
And now it is time for your extended weather forecast with meteorologist Ian McKenzie.
Thanks, Megan. Good evening again, everyone. Here's your look at your extended forecast and our look at the tropics at this time. We still have Tropical Storm Philippe out there. Not much in terms of activity expected to generate some hazardous boating and beaching conditions across the Windward Islands. This system should move towards the northwest and then eventually towards the north. Let's take a look at Philippe right now. Philippe should move towards the northwest, as I previously mentioned, strengthen into Cat 1 by about 8 p.m. on Monday, move more towards the north and then eventually towards the northeast, away from the islands. Again, Rena, closely falling behind, should weaken through about 8 a.m. on Monday morning, where it should further just pretty much dissipate through about midweek thereabouts. So not much in terms of activity from either of those systems. But however, it's the tropical season and they're still out there, so we still want to advise persons to remain vigilant and monitor the progress of these systems. We still have the stationary frontal boundary just north of us that I mentioned earlier. This should bring some muggy conditions, eventually transition into a cold front, and then move through our islands by Tuesday. Should bring some relief in terms of high temperatures by midweek. Taking a look at the boating forecast at this time, we have a small craft caution out there that is courtesy of those swells. Winds will be northeast to east at 10 to 15 knots. Your seas will be running 2 to 4 feet, but up to 6 feet in those northeasterly swells. And you can expect a high tide tonight at 9:22 p.m. with a low tide tomorrow morning at 3:34 a.m. Here's a look at your national forecast. And in your extended forecast, expect rainy conditions across the area pretty much into the early part of the week. Then we expect that stationary front transition to a cold front should push through the area early Tuesday with a cool down effect. So we expect those highs that were into the low 90s to dip slightly into the mid to upper 80s, with our low temperatures dropping down to the mid to upper 70s. That's a wrap on your forecast for this evening. Make it a great night, everyone.
Thank you for joining us for Our News Weekend tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Megan Shepherd. Have a wonderful weekend.